So we're here, episode 8.
Episode 8 already.
Back. He's decided to join us again after 2 months off now.
Is it 2?
Yeah, because we had the last month, obviously, it was just me and Sam.
You and Sam.
And then the month before that, we had a month off because of the Euros.
We did,
yeah. Going on.
And last time I was here was with Steph.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And then, obviously, then it was me and Sam. We had a little chinwag and went down rabbit holes and all sorts of random stuff.
We all love our rabbit holes, don't we?
And then today we've obviously brought Wayne on.
Yeah.
To find out a bit about Wayne's story.
Some good times and some bad times.
Yeah, the fun parts of it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like I'm very excited about it because I've known Wayne for a very long time. We've worked together for a very long time. So
I've known Wayne the whole time I've been in Leicester, pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
But if they do want to know about me, it's just going to be a bedtime story. Today is that stuff that you listen to and you fall asleep to.
Well, you say that, Wayne. I know a good few funny stories from you.
So what we want to do today is obviously, like we do with the other guest sites, sort of get to know Wayne to begin with, find out what you've done, how long you've been in the industry, sort of like snippets and bits, and then sort of go from there, really. So
back-to-back chefs for us, isn't it?
To start with.
Well, yeah, you stole my list. I'm joking.
I did steal the list.
Yeah.
I need to hide it from Wayne.
Yeah.
Is this just the foreplay so you ease me in?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've got to be honest, I'm nervous just
you shouldn't be nervous.
You put me in the kitchen, I'm the class clown, and that, put me in front of the camera.
Well, luckily, it's not live. It's not allowed. We can edit out. We can put bleeps in.
We can
or
play
quacks, as I requested earlier. So.
But yeah, so Candice came up with a couple of questions and stuff. So I think fire away with a couple of those.
Well, eventually, we're just going to figure out a bit more about Wayne and the adventures of his kitchen diary, essentially.
So there's going to be a lot of people out there that have had almost the same, not very similar sort of journeys, and almost for me as well is you can explain all the cool stuff you've done to sort of open up the eyes of people who necessarily think, well, he's just a chef. He just goes in the kitchen, goes home, and that's it. There's nothing else to it.
So that's all we do.
Microwave technician.
Not
anymore.
Or
but
chief
there is
nucleator as a cool
chief
but
nucleator.
there is loads of cool stuff you do, and there's loads of good stuff you've done, not just for obviously the cooking side of things, but you've done loads of really cool things as well. And
you even tried to get away from the chefs.
Yeah.
So
this is the sort of stuff we want to know about. And obviously then, anyone who does decide to tune in, and it could be someone who's starting their journey in the chef's thing, or it could be someone who's halfway through going, I can't do this, can't do this forever, or it could be, you might have someone who's really thinking, no, I'm done and there's nothing for me, where can I go here? You might have that answer. So fire away. Some amazing questions you've came up with today.
Go on then, Wayne. Let us know where it all began, because I always love this first chef story that you tell me.
So I've been in hospitality 21 years now, so more than half my life I've devoted to this
almost
trade.
as old as me.
Yeah. On a good day.
You left, you took a holiday away from it.
I was trying to say I was only 22.
I worked at in food and beverage, working at local football grounds, local rugby grounds, and I was just and then I met a head chef.
How old were you when you were working at these grounds and stuff like that? Sorry,
16 years old.
So you started 16.
Working in burger kiosk and then a noodle bar at the rugby ground. So
nice.
It was but I met a kitchen manager or a head chef, is what everyone used to be called back then, and it was and he's like, do you want to learn to cook? And I'm like, yeah, is it going to give me more hours? And I'm like, I loved money at that age, and I'm like, I really loved money and that. And it was don't get me wrong, the wage was horrible back then. It wasn't a good wage.
When I think about what we were paying.
I see my P60 from when I was 16, 17 years old. And I'm like, how the hell did I get out of bed for that money? But he got me a job in this pub, and I turned up on my first day, and I'm like, you know what? I'm really excited for this. First check comes through, and can you put 2 eggs on for me? And I'm like, how'd you cook an egg? And that was my first ever shift, and everyone, it was just complete silence, tumbleweed going through the kitchen. I'm just like, wow. And I'm like, what have I said? And then I found out the kitchen manager had told everyone I was really experienced with cooking. I'm 16, 17 years old, I couldn't even cook beans on toast at that point in my life. My mum cooked everything, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, and it was just took me till I'd say like mid-20s and that, and then all of a sudden I could really press them buttons on that microwave.
You know,
and like that's it. It's the perfect rice.
So you know, like when obviously that happened, you went, all right, okay, guys, I can't cook an egg. Did they go? I mean, now we take someone under our wing a little bit. We'll show them. We'll sort of teach them. We'll train them. But obviously back then, if it was anything like when I was trained on the bar and stuff, it was trial by fire. Figure it out yourself.
The only way I can describe it to anyone, and I don't know if anyone's like listening's old school and so on, but it's old school pub trade.
Yeah.
It's sort of, it was ruthless.
Yeah,
no one gave you a chance to grow your wings. They're like, if you ain't got it on day one and you're out the door. And it was literally your P45 were in the post and you're out. And
did you survive? That week?
Pub, I think I lasted about 6-7 months there.
Okay.
I'm like,
considering you couldn't cook an egg, that's good.
It was like, I was just shoved on the starters, and it's like, can you do some garlic bread for us? Can you just put some chips in the fryer? And it was just little things like that, and I'm like, do you know what they say? Worth travelling 10 miles every day out and 10 miles over.
Were you cycling at that point, or?
Yeah, so he was right out on the edge of the city, and I'm like, I can't do that. So I'm like, don't get me wrong, I moved to another pub and had another opportunity, and it was like, still 6 years later.
Did you show off and go, guys, I can cook an egg?
Yeah,
I can put some garlic bread down.
It was like,
fair play. And then obviously you moved to another pub, and that was that the same sort of like culture, food, everything else, or was it a very different, like it was back in the day where 90% things probably either got fried or microwave? Was that the sort of pub you moved into?
Yeah, no, it was like, like pub grub and that, and microwave head, like technician and so on, and it was sort of like, don't get me wrong, I had a good time at that pub. I met my missus, who I'm with now, still 19 years later, we're still together and that. And
very impressive, by the way.
Yeah, she was at the
testament.
time.
That's
she
amazing.
Was like deputy manager at the pub. I'm a chef, and don't get me wrong, that kept me grounded at the pub.
Yeah.
The amount of times I was 17, 18, 19 years old, and I'm like,
I'm the dog's
bollocks. Spontaneous. I'm like, shit shift and that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want out. I'm like, I'm just gonna walk out, and don't get me wrong, she settled me down.
Yeah.
And it was
she beat you down, didn't she? Let's be honest.
Yeah, beat you a little bit. She
stay in that kitchen.
She still does now.
So like going back to that bit then. So when you've said, obviously you have a really crap shift, or the natural response back then, especially because we've all experienced it when we were in pubs before. I don't even know when it's all changed, but those chefs would be angry. They'd be slamming about. They'd be throwing stuff. Do you think that's a learnt culture? Because obviously then you've gone in there young, open to see what's going on. They're all kicking off because they've had a bad day. Well, now I must kick off. And then all of a sudden it just becomes natural to start kicking off when you've had a bad shift, a bad day, something bad's happened. Do you think that's a learnt behaviour then? Do you think that's something that you picked up?
It's what you could.
Because you think it's not because you think it's acceptable, but because you think it's normal for an beat. If you're a chef, I must be angry.
I must be angry,
chef. You know what I mean? Because that's my experience.
The only way I could describe it was a bullying culture.
Yeah, it was 100%.
Like I remember, don't get me wrong, I am no saint when it comes to things that I used to get up to in this trade. And I remember and don't get me wrong, I am not proud of it now, but back then it was normal.
It was normal to.
So. I'm going to use
it's hazing, isn't it?
And I don't want it because I've changed myself and I'm totally different how I lead my team and how I talk to people now. But it was sort of like, there was someone who was colourblind, and don't get me wrong, at that time in life, I asked them to put all my dry store in colour order.
Yeah.
And it was and I sit there and I've changed now because we've had to in that. Within a different generation, we're working with younger people who are half our age now.
Yeah, which is worrying.
Normal in that. So I'm like,
yeah,
and that's how you look at it, and you're like, oh, how old are you? You're like, you're 80. I'm like, I've been in this trade longer than you've been alive.
Because with that whole sort of, it was a hazing thing. I mean, I spoke about it before. You spoke about it. When you were sent off for a long wait, for example, and you went to another bar. You went to another bar and waited.
Left-handed screwdriver.
Yeah, and that sort of stuff, the silly stuff. But then
I don't know if I'm allowed to go and get the B flaps.
Yeah, exactly.
And stuff like that. And it was all stuff
those sort of things. But then there is the other culture, the other side of things, where that's laughy jokey. But then like you said, you get the other stuff, and it and it is, and it was really bullying. But
like you mopping the ceiling.
Yeah, but it was mopping the ceilings and stuff like that. But then, obviously, then it was, and I've said it many times before. That's what the industry was. It was toughen up or leave, like that.
Yeah.
That was as simple as that. And then after a couple of years, it's almost like that person who was treated horrible, it's now their turn. Yeah. And they're thinking, well, I was treated like this. So, and then obviously it's getting knocked down and knocked down. So I just think it's quite interesting. Obviously, I've experienced from the bar side and I've seen the kitchen side a lot. But obviously, someone like Wayne, you've been doing it for 20 plus years now. You've seen 20 years ago to now. That is a very different time. Very different time.
Sort of like working in them pubs and that. It was, and I went through, and by the end of it, for that previous company I worked for, I went through grievances with them because I'm like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
How can someone make me feel this like way? I'm not just dead weight on like a bit of chewing gum on your
exactly,
and that, because back then there was a queue. You put a CV out, not a CV, you put a job advert out for someone, you would have hundreds of CVs come through. You had to fight to get into the trade back then. Now it's easy, and it's 10 times easier.
Less people want to work.
People you're just dispensable to them. We can treat you how we want.
Because if you don't want this job, you're gone.
It will find someone else.
Yeah.
So with that company, it was sort of, and I went through and I stood my ground, and I went through the full processes, and I was transferred to another pub, and then I made the decision eventually. I'm like, enough's enough. This isn't right. And it was sort of, and then I sort of started working with people within the company I work for now. And all of a sudden you're like, people's culture is different there. It's a whole different type of way of working. It's sort of like, I can be me without being judged.
Yeah.
I can make a mistake without having a steak chucked at me in the kitchen. Because that's happened.
Yeah.
And
at least it wasn't the steak knife.
Yeah.
That's happened to me.
Yeah.
The steak knife.
I've had, not from Wayne, but I remember one of the worst, and I don't know if you even listened to it, he's one of the coolest guys ever known. He was my first ever, when I worked in a pub, he was the first manager. And I thought I was inspired by him. He was a cool, really cool bloke. Until he was in the kitchen. And then he was like a devil. He was like completely different. Like he walks in, he'll say, "Hi, how you doing?" Walks in that kitchen. You walk in that kitchen after, he's barking at you, he's screaming at you. And you do that wrong thing. Or, "Oh, I'm really sorry, mate. I've taken a burger to the wrong table. They've eaten half it already. Can I have another one?" I've had knives thrown at me, plates.
I had a knife at my throat and that, and because at the time, this was years ago, and because I'm 17 years old, I'm straight off. All hanging around on the estate with all my mates, and then I've had the knife put to my throat, and I'm just stood there like pushing on the knife. I'm like, and I'm like, because I'm like, it's fight or flight at that point, and he was more frustrated.
Yeah, and I've seen where chefs have put holes in walls. I've had chefs fighting in the kitchen, physical, and you sort of go. And again, I spoke about this again before. It is purely the pressure, and it is. And the pressure. If you really think back to what we were doing back then. And I'll go back to when I first started. It was microwaving something or whacking something in a fryer. It wasn't crazy, but the pressure was put on us by someone else. It wasn't even the managers. It was, they were right, okay, this takes 5 minutes to make. So it needs to be done in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. And all of a sudden that pressure's on. It's an invisible pressure. Pressure doesn't exist. It's someone in an office somewhere, or someone who's gone, right, this only takes 10 minutes to get out there to the customer. That's what it should be. But obviously, all of a sudden, you've got 30 burgers on. That's not taking 10 minutes.
No.
But the expectation's there. Your KPIs, you're tracked on it. And back then, it used to be really silly little. We used to have spikes and slips.
Yeah.
And then half the time, you put it through your hand when you rush in and stuff like that.
Flashbacks.
But then, but then, the manager there was checked upon it, whatever it was. So there's always that pressure. But I always say, now especially, we obviously have that side of stuff. We want to get stuff out at a good time, but now it's a bit more of a better culture because we actually want it to be great food. We want it to look the part and go out at a good time. But I will never in a million years, and I'll never put that pressure on someone saying, no, you've got 6 minutes, you've got 8 minutes. because
that's one of those ones that
there's enough.
If you want it out in 6 minutes, you better get in that kitchen, show that it can be done in 6 minutes.
There's too much pressure in that kitchen to begin with to then start adding even more on, and that's what then I believe sort of makes those chefs, well, not turn, but become stressed out, angry, everything. They've got enough to do, really, cleaning, cooking, everything else in between, deliveries, whatever. And then going, oh, by the way, but all that food that I know there's only one of you in the kitchen, but you also need to get everything out in 5 minutes. It's not good.
But you think, like, when I first started, and like with who we work for now, and with the business, like, you know, one of the other businesses we worked in, when I started, I was angry. I was fiery.
You're a very different person.
I remember the time, like, I had no middle ground. It was like complete angry or chilled out. There was no middle.
No middle.
And then, and it's the only thing, and I still remember it, and I still hate the word every time I hear it. When you used to say to me, namaste, and I'm just like, I swear to God, you say that to me one time.
I went through a bit of a hippie phase.
Like, I would just be, as a chef, like, pure rage, and I'm like, why someone ordered a garlic bread? I cleaned the grill when someone's ordered garlic, and then you'd have Matt come in just like, namaste, and I'm like, I swear I'm like, and it was, but I say to the culture of working with people like you, working with you, and like, you know, both you, and it was just sort of like, you know, being surrounded by positive people, it sort of brings out a more positive side in you.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, when I wanted to get angry, and I'm like, can't be angry. Namaste.
Yeah,
Namaste. And I'm like, I can't be like that. And then all of a sudden I started thinking, I'm like, all these people I've worked with, these bad managers, these bad kitchen managers who are bullies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm that person. I've learned, this is learned behaviour that I've learned, what you've said, hit on it. Learned behaviour from people I've worked with, and now making me this angry person. My kitchen team are not wanting to be in the kitchen with me because I rage. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, I want to be different. I want to change myself, and I want to learn about people, how the mind works, and so on and that. And it was sort of, now it's like, I look at it and I'm like, you will be stressing. There's been shifts where you've had to really put up with Matt coming in the kitchen and like being on a match day just to make the kitchen function with me. And you're looking up at that screen, and you just like,
it's bewildering. No,
I don't look at the screen. I look at a chef. I don't, if I'm helping in the kitchen, I don't bother with that. If I was in there with Sam the other day, and I was like, Sam, you tell me what to do, mate, and I'll cook it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't give a fuck about that. I was like, I don't give a fuck about that. You tell me what to do, and I'll make it now. Like, I don't know where you were on that.
When I've gone into the kitchen, again, I spoke about this a little bit, you know, and I get the stress because I've you know, if I've just done a quick kitchen shift, or I've got into a kitchen and, you know, it's been led by Wayne, so I know it sounds silly, but I know I'm safe, everything's going to go well, but also you know, it could be a pre-game or something like that.
I'm just
and
winging it.
You're,
I don't know what I'm
You've
doing.
never cooked anything. This is ever since I've met you.
Where's this fucking egg?
But you know, like for me, it was like going into that kitchen. And it is, and I said this in the last one or two before, like, I really respect those guys because I will look at that, you know, a ticket or a screen and, you know, 2 or 3 items I'm cool with. Yeah, okay, in my head I can compute what I need to do, get it all at once, no problem. When you do like a match day and you do, you know, say £1,000 worth of food in less than an hour or an hour, which, you know, the average bit of food's maybe a tenner, so it's a lot of food, 100 plus, you know, dishes, and 70 of them are on the screen at the same time. Meltdown. Like, my brain, cannot compute. I'll just go, I'm going to do the first 3. And but then I'll turn around and I say, right, Wayne, I've got the first 3 in here. I've already got the first 15 on. You've got this done. All you need to do is make the burger buns. I'm like, okay. And I'll make the burger buns, and all of a sudden he's got 25 burgers made, loads of other bits.
So talking from inexperience here, right? I'm completely different to you, yeah? If I get 6 checks on, I'm like, for fuck's sake. And I'll do the first 3 and then the bottom 3. Yeah. Right? If I get 10 checks on, I'm meltdown. Yeah. But if that screen's full, I'm like, la 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 la. Well, we'll just get it out when it's out.
It's an algorithm. It's like, I've done it for so long now. Look at that screen. Your brain would just see burger, pizza, this, that, the other. My brain will go 10 hash browns, this, and it just breaks it down.
That's
I don't have to think anymore.
I love that.
And I've said to you before, when you've been in the kitchen, you're just like, you're just looking at it and you're like a rabbit in headlights.
Oh, absolutely, I am.
And
absolutely.
you're like a rabbit in headlights.
Absolutely.
You're just looking at the screen. I'm like, why are you stressed and that? And it's like, look at it. And I'm like, do you see me stressed? And you're like, no. I said, you don't need to be stressed. When you see me running around like, you be stressed.
Like
that's normal when the kitchen's on fire. And oh God, I ain't even telling the customers.
It is 100% one of those. If you see me running from a then run. Everything else will be fine. I wanted to just quickly touch on as well, because obviously, as I said, you are now back as a kitchen manager, but you've done other things. Obviously, way before all of this, one of the coolest things obviously you've ever told me, and one thing I was like, wow, was when you actually were on front of house. Weren't you? You were
like a lifetime.
It does, but you were front of house, and
like
originally,
no one. I got fed up with them.
you were front of house. Yeah. You were holding your own pub.
Yeah,
and you were one of the youngest to be holding your own pub, which is no matter what.
In a proper council estate pub where it was
slightly,
it was very rough around the edges.
But you were one of the youngest ones to be doing it. And you've had.
I think I was 23 back then when I was holding.
Which back then was
for 3 months. I think I held that pub for.
Which now, like, it is very. How you say it's like now? There's like courses, stuff like that. The average person can't just be running a pub at 23 because you've got a lot to go through. But they trusted you enough to be doing that. So you've had such experience with that, and how many times, especially when I first became a general manager, I was lucky enough to have you with me.
Yeah.
And the amount of times I came to you and were like, I have no idea what this is because I wasn't shown it. I've never been learnt it, and now I've got to figure it out.
I remember payroll.
Payroll.
You weren't
first time I've ever seen it.
I played around on this once, and I figured it out. Like that first day, I used a microwave.
Yeah,
I just played with buttons.
But it was like I was, with all this, you can be trained to everything, every single part of the job. You can be trained until you're left on your own, and then it's. Oh, I've got to manage my own time. I've got to get all this done. I've got to get the pub open. I've got to manage this. I've got to pay everyone. And all of a sudden, those probably only 10 jobs now feel like it's 1,000 jobs. And again, rabbit headlights. I have no idea what I'm doing. I know how to work the coffee machine. Yeah, you know what I mean? It is. And then, but thankfully, again, I had Wayne with me, and I sort of was like, and obviously for anyone listening and anyone in between, no matter what stage of any career you're in, asking for help is a sign of strength, in my opinion, because you're going, you know what, I don't know this. I want someone to show me so I know it. It's that sort of thing. It's not, I'm going to wildly guess and maybe most likely fuck it up. So I had Wayne there, and because of his experience with everything else before, and he's very intuitive when he looks at these programs and he learns them, whether he needs to or not. I was lucky enough to have you there to teach me that sort of stuff. But as I was saying, like, because you've had the experience at front of house and back of house, and pretty much every side of the house, you are all over. So you've done that, which for me was obviously massive help to me there. But you've done something cooler. You've done amazing things. You're doing something. You're working towards something currently. Yeah. So tell us a bit, like, because obviously you're now. I don't even know what I'll call it, but you're doing your apprenticeships, aren't you? So you've done 5.
No, I've not done 5.
You're on level 5.
You're exaggerating like you normally
do. Wayne's done 27 apprentices in the last week. No, so tell me about this then. So tell me.
So I'm in my 3rd apprenticeship now, and I started 31 years old doing apprenticeships and that, because there was something that when we was younger, it was sort of like 25. That was the cap. If you was over 25,
you couldn't do anything.
You're already too old.
It's like you were too old. You may as well like.
You're just doing that.
Now and that.
You're not getting any further in life.
You're just going to be. But I got given an opportunity with the company that I currently work for, and it was sort of like, we're doing this.
Is it level 5 you're on now?
I am currently on.
So that's why I got the 5.
So,
there we go.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm doing level 5.
Yeah.
So I've done a level 3 in hospitality supervisor, level 4 in hospitality manager.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to really change it up, and I'm doing level 5 in coaching,
which is incredible.
And it's not coaching people to play sports or whatnot. It's life coaching, because I want to understand people, and like, I want to be able to get the best out of the people I work with. I want to understand people, and especially in the day and age we're now in, and the generation that we're now working with, I want to understand how their mindset is, and I want to, and it has helped me this current one, especially sometimes, you know, you have them bad days and you're like, oh, you can't figure out, and then you're like, oh, I remember that one. That's this model. Or that's this theory.
Because that's one
thing. You can put it in context.
With you obviously your learnings and stuff like that. You'll, you know, some things I'm like, oh, I don't understand. And there's been times where you've sort of not pulled me aside as such, but you've pulled, it's probably because of this, or you know, it's they're probably, you know, whatever it might be. So it could be a staff member's, be it like being quiet, or whatever it might be, or something. And there has been times where you said actually it could be to do something, and it shows me the difference to. Well, you know, even when we first met, you still were fiery. You weren't like crazy fiery.
I'm still fiery now.
Oh, yeah.
Just can sort of
but you know what I mean?
Hidden away. It's every now and then.
When you look at, say, the last, however many years we've been working together now, 6, 7, 5, 2. I don't know numbers.
1
apparently.
year, but you exaggerated.
But
again.
like, you know, from when we first started together, obviously you know, you still work slightly fiery here and there, but overall you were amazing. But then obviously the growth from that to this. And then now you're doing something to really understand everything. Yeah. That's massive. If you really look at it, that's a massive thing.
One of my sayings is to be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
So if I'm the best version of myself, I can lead my team better. I can work alongside you guys. And, you know, like because don't get me wrong, this lot can argue. We can have them moments.
It's the heat of the moment.
But we've now got that thing where we're like, oh no, I'm not going to hold grudges. It's like end of the shift, you're there at the end of the bar having a pint. Like really solid power. It's a bit thing. This is what I've got.
It was dead busy. This was happening.
But we understand, and I do see a lot of, like, especially the team that we work with in all of this, pretty much like a family. And that's how I see hospitality is you're a family, you get close to each other. Someone's having a shit day, you support each other. And
I think now as well, like, you know, in this day and age, you know, there is a lot more understanding where, you know, again, when you were old school sort of thing, you walked in all Mardy and stuff, like, what are you being Mardy for? Get on with it. Or, you know,
the old
job.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? There was no trying to understand.
No, there was no. The old saying was leave your shit at the door.
Yeah, and that was 100%. That was one of the first things I realized. Any problems you've got, we don't care.
Yeah, leave your shit at the door.
When you walk in, you're here to work. We don't care about anything else. And that always, obviously on paper, I suppose, if that's what happened, you walked in like miserable and then went, smile on, happy as Larry.
Yeah,
I suppose it kind of worked. But reality, it just meant everyone was just not talking about anything. So now, again, I've noticed a lot of the young ones, especially, are very open.
Yeah,
about,
we all talk about more now.
and they talk about stuff, and which is great. But I don't necessarily always understand a lot of it. But then obviously I'll talk to you maybe about something, and you'll go, "Oh, it's probably because of this or that," and I go, oh, "Okay, that actually makes sense. That's okay. That makes sense now." So again, that sort of, you know, your journey from not being able to cook an egg to now understanding how people are and work, and you're working on a qualification for that. And in between all of that, you figured out how to run a pub, how to run a kitchen, how to do orders, how to look after.
Even took a detour into the training team at one point.
That's it. Yeah, you were in our training team, training people to progress further within the industry. You've done incredible stuff, man. Like, genuinely, and I think you should be very proud of that. Really do. Honestly.
You know me, I just sit there and I go through life and
I know, it's all right, yeah.
It is what
Don't mind me, I'm just so modest.
You know where you've spoken about seeing, you know, looking at things differently.
Yeah.
Like I struggle with empathy and I struggle to show that sports team, and I sit there and I openly used to say to everyone, like, I want to be like that arm around you, but I'm not that type of person. I've grown up in a different generation.
You're more like someone who digs you in the ribs.
Yeah, it's just like while you're down and out, nutcracker. And
you'll get over it.
It was sort of like, I can never, you know, when in other pubs where a team would talk about mental health and all of this, and I just couldn't grasp it. And I'm like, I'm not one to, don't get me wrong, I've been through the battles of like mental health and that, and I did them in my own silence and so on, but I couldn't get, you know, that put
behind or with someone,
like, I want to be that person to give you a cuddle or, you know, that support. But now, you know, the more you surround yourself with people
who are like that.
And, you know, people, and I love the current generation, and I do, and I know people refer to him a certain way in that, but, and it's like, but I don't want to say the word, but that's how people, but do you know what? I love the openness. I love my nephews and that now. That they sit there and they openly talk about everything going on in their life. You know, when they're having a bad day, they're having a bad day. Yeah. And so on. And I'm like, we never had that in this. It was like, oh, you're having a bad day, just get over there and wash some dishes.
Yeah.
And like,
oh, well, you're still going to school, get on with it.
You know, like, you know, someone's passed away in your family, you're like, oh, I'm feeling it, and you still a few weeks later, you're really low, and it's just
weeks
like,
ago,
I'm not bothered, and that's last week, and that, do this and that, and you're like, but now it's sort of like we're more understanding of the people we work with.
I think we are now, especially, you know, again, you know, when it all, don't get me wrong, like you said, there's a lot of negativity with it all, and, you know, sometimes you kind of almost feel, you notice the difference in work styles and everything else in between, but, you know, so probably all of us were brought in that area where, you know, it wasn't almost acceptable to say, oh, you know what, I'm feeling really crap, I'm feeling down, whatever. And almost it was not beaten out of you, but it was almost sort of like, oh, you're a bit weak if you start talking like that.
Yeah.
Where actually,
especially as like male mentality.
Oh, absolutely.
Like male mentality, you didn't talk about that shit. Otherwise, you were just
and it like
put in the corner.
Even like the girls and stuff, it was sort of, oh, while you're at step on the bar, go out back and sort yourself out.
Yeah.
Or go cry in the toilet or something.
If you need a moment, go away.
Go away. So I'm not dealing with it, but then come back, sort yourself out because I need you on the bar. And that's kind of how it was when I first got in.
Yeah, and people would get fed up as well. It's like, what are you having a minute? So you're taking out of our time then, are you?
I suppose I'll work twice as hard. You're missing around.
Yeah, go on then. Have a silly moment then.
Yeah, and
that was like 10 years ago.
It was a long time ago, but it actually wasn't.
It doesn't feel like a generational gap.
No, but then, and actually, in my opinion, now it's, you know, especially we see like these, you know, celebrities come forward and I've been dealing with this for the last 10 years, and I was like, oh, they're so strong. Well, then these younger kids, freaking crazy strong, because they're out here 18 years old telling you they're sad. Or they're
not in their mid 30s, early 40s.
Not in their big 30s, and it's now fashionable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's they're actually being honest from the start, and that's always. I mean, that when I first started that was an eye opener for me, because the other pubs we've had before are more, you know, the older people working there in the first place, or it's a more different generation type pub. So it is a lot to take in, and then again in the kitchen as well. It's, you know, I'm very used to old school chefs, and then, you know, you come into a different kitchen and it's like, oh, these are all not old school chefs.
Yeah.
And it's, again, learning that way. So, you know, like with all the amazing stuff you've done, all the cool stuff you're doing and everything else, do you think, you know, if you went back 20 years, would you, and you knew where you're going to end up, so, you know, doing all this, would you have changed the path and done something different, do you think? Or you think, actually, no, I've made the right decision. Overall, I'm going to be where I want to be? Big question. That's the money question.
The thing is, I would say, like, I believe we're on a path in life.
Yeah.
And it was always set, and you would think that I wouldn't
you just follow your trail.
With now, that I wouldn't have my two amazing children I've got.
Yeah.
Shout out Alfie and Finley.
What?
And there's one of the injuries from the foot trade for showing. But I don't know. It's like, don't get me wrong, like when I was in school going in, there was a program you see, and it was like travel and tourism. It was these travel club 18.
I remember those. Yeah.
And you see them, and you're like, look how cool they are.
They're having the best time ever.
I wanted to be them, but I couldn't get there, so I settled for the second best and ended up working at the pub trade, because you can still get pissed in the pub trade.
Yeah, fair.
And it was like, no, I don't. But I've loved working in this industry.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it. I've met amazing people. People come and go. People think I'm a bit ruthless when they're leaving. They're like,
bye forever. See you later.
Just like, see you later.
And
because I've worked with thousands of people.
To jump on that,
and I'm just like,
it is such a thing where, you know, people don't understand that, you know, all of us now have been in this industry for so long.
Yeah.
We know people. We're hiring people. We know for a while they're not going to be there for long, or they're there for a couple of years maybe.
Yeah.
But we know they're coming and going. So I think for those guys, obviously they get attached, they get thingy. Yeah. We've probably been attached once or twice and gone, oh, this kind of hurts. So now we're just numb to it.
Yeah, it's also their moment in time that they're not going to work in the pub industry for a long ass time. So it's their moment. When they look back at the pub industry, like, oh, I worked with such and such. It was such a cool time, right? If you go back 5 years and tell me 2 people you worked with, but you couldn't.
Actually, I probably could.
Huh? But barring the people that you work with right now.
I was about to say, because I still work with them.
Right? Yeah? Tell me 2 people that work, you know, in like just glass collection or just in the kitchen.
Students that have come for a year and gone again. Yeah, no, 100%. And that's again another thing where a lot of people, like, they believe we should remember them. Yeah. And it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. It's the fact that we've gone through it 200, 300 odd times already. Whether it's on good terms, bad times, anything else in between, we're numb to that now. aren't we? And the same for you in the kitchen. You're going to be numb to it. It's like, great, yeah, you were a key player 4 years ago, maybe. You were calling in the shifts. But now I've got 10 other staff I look after, and generally I can't remember your second name. You know, and that's nothing personal, but it is the life we
It's just
live.
funny, isn't it?
Yeah, you know.
And especially as like so many people have the same names.
Yeah, exactly.
Why aren't parents more like, you know, original?
Yeah, really weird names.
Too many Toms and Sams in this
There
fucking
is.
world.
That's why everyone's got surnames.
Yeah, that's
now.
why we all have different names because of it. But yeah, sorry, Wayne. So yeah, you know, obviously,
Sidetrack.
you know, I definitely did. But again, you know, you become numb to that side of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, you're, you know, with all the cool stuff you've done, and you're telling me, you know, how you are sort of on your path. So, do you think, like, you know, now going forward, you know, you hopefully, you know, end of January roughly,
Yeah,
should be finished.
January,
You'll finish the hopefully you'll finish this. Is it this
qualified professional coach?
which is
going back 20 years ago. I'm doing equivalent to a second year at university.
you're trying to
and I'm
microwave
like,
an egg 20 years.
Yeah.
It was like I thought I was destined to be a pot washer all my life, but now all of a sudden I'm like, oh.
So do you think, you know, obviously people, you know, either in the situation it was before or, you know, within pubs and things like that. Obviously, for me, I think, you know, if you put your mind to it, people can do this sort of stuff. But is it worth them? I mean, obviously, I know you're doing it, but do you believe it's worth them actually, you know, putting the nose out and going, no, you know what, I am going to do these courses. I am going to see find learning and, you know, within the hospitality and stuff. Do you think that it's, no matter what the outcome is, if they, you know, achieve something and then go into coaching or something like that, do you think that's a betterment for that person no matter what? Do you think would you be an advocate of everything you've gone through course-wise and everything else for what you achieve?
No, it's like, I think, like, definitely apprenticeships and that is like, you know, learning, always expanding your mind and things and that. And I do believe it's like, especially with the course that I've done, like at the minute, like with organisation and culture. I've said that probably completely wrong, but
sounds fancy.
Yeah, we don't know. We're not in it.
Instant. It's grown over time. So this industry we work in has grown over time, and now we've got a more people-focused organisation, and we care about people we work with because people aren't dispensable like they used to be. It's like, but no, definitely going down the education. I'm like, I had a chance. I resat my maths and English at 32 years old, and I'm like.
So it's never too late.
So now my CV, my original GCSEs, it doesn't look as bad as it did there.
So that's
I've never put my GCSEs on my CV.
No one checks them. They are. I told everyone. But like, you know, for you know, for anyone who might be listening, is that, you know, no matter how old you are, you know, or whatever, you can just go, you know what, actually I do want to go and learn. I do want to go and do this. You can better yourself. There's no time limit to when you have to do anything in life at all, in theory. You know, you don't have to have had a wife and kids at this age or a house at that age, or, you know, you don't need to be a manager at this point. Go and learn some cool stuff. It might make things amazingly better. So yeah, what you thought of some really good questions for our Wayne as well?
Yeah, I did. And before we get too far away from it, because I know you touched on, like, if you've enjoyed your journey essentially and if you would have changed anything. But if you were to go back the 21 years and start again and met your 17-year-old self, would you give him any tips or tricks, or would you tell him anything different, or would you just say, get out?
Run while you can.
Don't get me wrong, I've been through some very hard times in this trade, but I'd probably tell myself to, like, just be tougher, stand up for yourself, do not be bullied. Yeah. Because I did, because it was so accepted how it was. But I'd probably give myself that advice and that, and it's like, but don't get me wrong, it's like 10 years after I'd started, it changed again, and it was sort of like all of a sudden there's all these, you could do apprenticeships later on, and it was,
you can do all of this,
and the way companies work, like, this isn't acceptable and that. But no, I'd just probably tell myself to be a bit tougher and probably take it a bit more serious and stop walking out of jobs and because I'm like, and I give her a thing, like Laura, like, I'm mentioning her name, but it's like she sat there, she's
like, a partner, that.
Yeah, like been the night, but she kept me grounded and that, and it was sort of like, because I would have just been in and out of jobs, didn't take it serious, but I'd probably like, just like stand up for yourself, and if you don't think something's right, speak out.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that is key as well now, and I think a lot of, excuse me, a lot of the younger people probably have that I say the balls to
they're almost driven as well to say that
this isn't right anymore. I'm not happy, and work that way. And then obviously the older generation, like the older ones who are still in the game and stuff, who survived so far, again, if they've had rubbish or thing, or maybe they've still got, there's still old school chefs out there, there's still old school managers who could be the same.
Well, I don't know if you guys ever feel this as well, but some of like the newer guys, well, when they say certain things, you're like, well, hold on a minute, like the shit that I went and dealt with, right, for a lot less than you guys get paid. Just chill out. Like, you got this. It's fine. Like, there's no need to stress, and there's no need for this attitude. Like, but I think that's just me sometimes because of all the hardships that you kind of grind through.
I always like try and remind them that I only get paid X amount an hour.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't get paid that until I was an assistant manager. Like, and you've just walked in. Like, they've got it a bit. I say easier.
It's not easier because the world's moved on. Yeah, but
yeah, no, I get you. Culture's changed. The way people see the world has changed.
Yeah.
And it's changed for the better.
Yeah.
Because now I'm looking at like when my children are old enough to work in the world, I'm like, they ain't gonna go through the stuff I went through.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I'm like, I can go out and get a job. There's not gonna be some knobhead behind doing something, but not gonna be a knobhead behind the cook line.
Yeah.
Shouting at them and chucking stuff at them and holding knives to their throats and just situations like that. It's like they're going to go into a safe environment, and that's all. And like
that is true.
And don't get me wrong, like all this, like it's had to change how we are as people and that because
even stuff we didn't think was necessarily bad.
Yeah.
Because we've had the worst, and then we've dumbed it down tenfold. But then, even then, after, don't get me wrong, we've been doing this for a long time now, but, when you first get your first pub, or you're like, yeah, well, I remember when I was treated like, so I'm going to say this. And then you go, why, you almost learn again.
Yeah.
You're like, well, that wasn't acceptable.
No.
I'm so sorry. Or, you do something, you're like, yeah, because I'm the boss, that's what I do. I run this kitchen, or I run this pub, or whatever. I'm the, Then you go, I hated the person that did that to me.
Why have I just done that?
Why have I just done that? I'm not that person. What I'm going to do is, run or whatever it is, like how I am, because that's how I am, and do it with, somewhat being nice and do that. And then if they don't get on board, then it's a different story. But
it's really cliche, but I can't get it out of my head. And it's that quote, isn't it? It's the one of be the change that you want to see.
That is definitely on some lady's kitchen.
Yeah.
Stick it on a wall.
With those,
one of those really cheesy ones from the pound shop or something.
But from being in the training team, and we had that like in phrases, and we used to write it on certain boards, and it still is in there. Yeah. Apparently, it's right there.
Be the change you want to be.
No, be the change you want to see.
You want to see.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, like you with the namaste, it worked.
Yeah. But the thing is that
he did it, and he was like, honestly, I'm like, I wanted to punch you straight in the face. It worked. That's a word. I was like instantly. But relax.
But because that was from a coach.
Yeah.
That was from a coach when I went to a session, and the coach there at the time. It was like a session because it was we were all invited, and to me I was like, wow, this, because again I was at that point where I was becoming a manager, and I was still very new, and also worried to sort of step out of line or say have my own voice. And he was the first one to say, do not do any more than you should be. Do not do any more than your hours, because you need to look after you. And one thing that always stuck to me was look after you first, because you can't look after your team if you're not looked after yourself. You can't be the best, or at least do your best, if you're not. Do you know what I mean?
But you say that about looking after yourself, but we never do that. You'll always break yourself to look after the team.
And that's I think that's what's changed in our industry.
But then now I do think as we're getting older, we're not getting any younger. Some of us are pushing 40.
Not me, by the way.
Yeah.
You getting close at me. I was like, I've got 4 years, thank you.
We're starting to realise it's like
I physically can't do it anymore.
I can't do this forever.
And this is almost like when we first started.
Said your podcast wrong then, by the way.
That's
an outtake.
But this is sort of kind of how we came up with this. It was we are getting on.
Yeah.
And that's because I always when we were probably all started and stuff like that, I always thought the manager, whoever was running it at the time, was like, I don't think they're ever doing anything. Obviously, they're always in the office or whatever it might be. And actually, well, yeah, I was swiveling in the chair. But then reality, actually, when you really think about it, well, they were probably my age. And they've done all the graft. They've done everything else. They've got to where they need to be or want to be. Yeah. They're looking after the other points, but they've got everyone else. They're paying other people to do the rest of that work.
Yeah.
Like if you owned your own business, like we spoke about earlier.
Yeah. And then you're doing the invisible stuff.
Yeah, you do the invisible stuff, but you start a business, you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Until you start making enough money to get someone else to help. And then soon enough, you can step away a little bit and let those guys do that. Yeah. You do all the things. And that's where I think we are getting at. And also, I can't bend down to the second shelf anymore without my knees hurting. So that's the other thing. I can't do glasses.
Or your back
or my back.
You know, at the end of
that's the thing. Or I pull my back, or I do this.
Yeah.
You know, we get into that point where
that's because you don't stop. And and the thing is, we put everything into the pubs we do. We put everything into our home life. We've all got commitments, whether it's with children or it's with renovating a house, and that we've all got that responsibility. And it's like
right, 100%. And I think now the other thing, the big change, and I think you mentioned it then, was we will work our butts off, but maybe behind the scenes, maybe a lot of the staff probably don't even realise what we do, but to make their life better and make it better for all of us. Whereas I reckon 10, 15 years ago, the manager would still put his feet up in the office. Right, I'm finished.
Yeah.
He wouldn't. Managers were at the end of the bar having drinking Fosters.
Even when you're 10 deep at the bar. You're like, well, I know there's only one of you, but get on with it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference now. We wouldn't do that. We would be behind the bar with them, or we'd be in the kitchen with them.
Yeah.
Whether we're working or not. I mean, you weren't working.
Whether you think it's helpful or not.
So, like, well, for example, like Wayne wasn't working today. And next thing you know, chefs are on. He's in the kitchen helping the other chef because we had a brush on.
Yeah.
And it's not because he feels he has to. It's natural to us now.
Yeah.
You know, it's natural because why would we don't want someone to suffer in any way when because it's our team. We care about them, so we go out our way to make sure they're okay,
especially if we're around
at the expense of ourselves.
Yeah,
and that's not necessarily a good thing.
No, not for our time and mental, but
but
for the good of the team. And
But Laura does say to me, it's like, you're obsessed with the trade.
Yeah.
I've done it for so long. I'm like, don't get me wrong, I've got my family at home, I've got like everything. But I'm like, sometimes I'm just not switched off from work. I go home,
you go home and you talk and you message him about work.
I had to come in today and that because I'm like, I knew something was happening in the pub and that, and I'm like, I've got to be there because I won't settle at home.
Yeah, you're constantly thinking about it and you want to know the answers and you know, that's something. And that's, I think we again, we've spoke about a lot of this sort of stuff, and it's learning to find a way of switching off a little bit. And as much as sometimes, I mean, like something obviously
gaming headphones.
But you know what I mean. It's getting away from everything.
Reality,
and it is finding those hobbies, finding something. And
it's like Sam when he puts his music on, like he puts his headphones on and switches off to the world. Yeah. Sometimes it's just getting away from the noise.
You need to, and say put your game headset on, go to the gym, go for a walk, walk the dogs, whatever it might be. To
walk the kids.
Yeah, walk the
kids, take them to the park.
Put them on a chain, do whatever you need to do, but getting away from everything, and it's something we probably none of us do, and I think I've thought about it a few times. Is literally, when you leave the house, leave your phone on the side, because unless that pub's burning down, in reality, I can't put it out anyway, so I don't need to know about it really. Yes,
until it's too late.
Yeah, until it's too late.
Yeah.
I just know I've got a day off. But, like walking in after I've done something really nice and going, oh, pub's burnt down. Like, I can't change that. No, but you know what I mean? You can't change it whether or not it's something bad happened or not. It's happening.
Well, me and Bernie went for a walk the other night and with the dogs, and we both left our phones in the house.
And I bet that was lovely.
It was lovely, but it also, but at the back of your mind, you're like, well, I hope we don't get mugged.
Well, if you do, it's not a problem because you ain't got a phone.
Yeah, I know, but we've also got no way of saying help.
Yeah, well, yeah. But that sort of thing, like that's something I've been thinking about recently. Like if I go to the gym or something, I've seen loads of people are buying iPods again. Like that's a thing.
Like the
nano ones.
Yeah.
So they can just put their phone aside. And I was like, I could probably do that. I'll be well annoyed in about 30 seconds with a wire, but that's what I mean. And it's learning to learning to switch off. And I think for you, Wayne, I think obviously I've known you forever, and you not switching off all the time is obviously great and benefits the pub and benefits. Yeah, you are, but it benefits the pub, which I'm never going to argue about. But obviously we are all getting to that point where actually no, it might benefit the pub, but that pub, as much as we all care and we want it to do well, you matter more. Both of you, and like to go, you know what? Actually, I don't need to feel guilty about booking a bit of holiday. Yeah. Because I'm going on holiday. for the first time in forever.
Yeah.
I'm actually going out of the country.
You got 10 days off somewhere else.
5 years or something. And it was that, I was put to, working all the time. It was horrible. And I was stressed. It was horrible, and got back and said, just book somewhere.
Yeah.
Just book somewhere. I need to not be here. I need to have something to look forward to. And already, I feel I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. And because of that, I've now got something to look forward to. And because of that, I'm not counting the days, but it is, actually, it's not too long now till I'm on holiday, sort of thing. And, but this is going to be, I've got the holiday and then a bit more time off. I've got 2 solid weeks I've never had off before.
Yeah.
That's going to be hard.
I got less than...
Going to pub the burn down.
Pub the burn down.
Burn the pub down. That's definitely going to be an
that's it's in there. Like,
that's in there.
But have you seen, I don't know if you've seen those things, people keep taking photos and getting some really fancy editor, like Photoshop, and it looks real. Like, oh, sorry, Matt, the pub's burnt down. But you know what? Like, obviously it won't happen, but if it did, I can't do anything about it anyway, whether I'm there or not.
I hope the pub doesn't.
I really hope it doesn't. We've mentioned it a lot. We've mentioned it a lot. But yeah, as I said, like, it is about finding that bit of time as well, and I think it's super crazy important, especially as I've said, in a kitchen and stuff. You're hot and bothered anyway. It's stressy as hell. So if there's any, like, when we had Stefan on and stuff like that, and he went from that exact environment and he's slowly worked his way up to do some amazing things. And now you're doing the same, and I want to urge anyone else in that situation to think outside the box. Okay, I've been a chef, I am a chef, but now what next?
That isn't your destiny to always
do
be a
more.
Chef.
Find something amazing.
One of the number one things in is the one person who puts the main blockers on is yourself.
Yeah, because you don't believe in yourself.
You put the obstacles in place. You don't, and it's what's it called, imposter syndrome, and that, and it's sort of like,
I don't deserve
to be that person because someone back in your life has conditioned
said you're not
to think that your thing.
And the other thing is, you see a lot of social media or anything like that. You see these celebrities or influencers or whatever they might be doing that job or doing that thing, like your coaches. And I always think, when I think of coach, I go, like an online coach or something, and they're charging you £300 a month to tell you to get up in the morning at 4 a.m. and eat eels or something. But like, that's how I always think of a coach. But reality is, there's a lot of coaches out there that are doing amazing things. But you probably, if someone said to you 10 years ago, oh, you could be a coach. I'm like, no, I couldn't. Can't be a coach. Have you seen them?
Can't even cook an egg.
How can I teach anyone anything? But it is, influencers and stuff like that ruin a lot of people's dreams, I think, because you look at all those social media, you look at all that rubbish, and then you go, well, I'm nothing like him.
Yeah.
Or her.
I think that's the worst of the internet, though, isn't it? You see the best. You see 9 times out of 10, you see the best of everything.
Yeah.
You see people doing the absolute 10 out of 10 shit.
Yeah.
And then you think,
I'm never doing that.
How am I going to get to be 10 out of 10? If you don't know, if you don't try.
It also sets an example of the highest it could possibly go, but that is now the target. And you go, well, I'm never going to have 60 million followers and teaching all these people in Dubai.
But the thing is they wouldn't have either if they didn't start.
No, exactly, and that's I think the trick is actually, not putting those blockers on, not thinking go for it, because what's the worst that can happen?
But it's like one of the other things that I've learned about is like, so you have your self-image, you have your true image, and then you have your ideal image, and they all merge in together. So your self-image is how you perceive yourself in life. So that's that person who tells you like, well, you're never going to be that person, and that your true image is like say how you see me, and that's you're telling me, no, actually you're this person.
Yeah.
And then your ideal image is that person you want to be.
So you envision.
Your vision and that, but it's sort of merging them all together and getting it, no, actually I can be that person. And it's
so, because obviously we're getting to a point where we're running a bit out of time, but, like, what would you then say, sort of younger self, or even, to be honest, a better example, for an 18-year-old comes into the kitchen, sort of, what would you sort of finish off today? Because I think it'd be quite cool. What would you say to them? Like, if they think, well, I didn't do too well at school, I've managed to get this job as a, probably doing what you were doing, making the fries or whatever it might be. Would you say
fries and some
what would you say to that person?
So probably with things that I've learned about now, and like especially with my last apprenticeship, and it's sort of like, I always say it to all the team at work now, and I'm like, what's your 5-year plan? Yeah. Have a 5-year plan. If I had a 10-year plan back when I was younger, probably could have been even further. This time scale of where I'm at now it probably would have been a lot sooner. But I didn't have that. I just lived day by day. And
rather than having a true focus.
You had a little
and then it's then going, right, so this is where I want to get in life. This is what I want to be. How am I going to get there?
Yeah.
And then it's you working out, all right, well, I need to do this and I need to do that.
And that's when you
so on and
start
that. And it's like, and it's having a plan in that, because if you don't have a plan in life, then you're just going to sit in that first gear and you're never going to push yourself.
Yeah.
Because there isn't an end goal in that, and it's like, and that's like me from the pub trade. Don't get me wrong, there's people who go to university, college, they've already got that. They're the ones who have got the plan in place and that. But then a lot of the time, like people who fall straight into, say, the pub trade or a job, and they've not got an end goal. They're just like, I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life, and that. And I'm like, and then you sit there and you get into your 30s, and then all of a sudden, like, what the hell am I doing in my life?
And then also, like you said, with the opportunities have gone from this to a few. And then, unless you're willing to, like you say, do course and stuff, it's
or start again.
Or start again.
And then by that point, you've got a family or something like that, and you can't afford to start again.
Like I say, I've worked in kitchens in the pub trade for like 21 years. And I'm like, now I'm studying to be a professional coach, and I'm like, and even when I say to some of my friends that I've grown up with, I've known them from day one at school, and they're like, coaching, and I'm like, oh, I'm one of them life coach. I'm learning to be one of them people who sit the other side of you, and I'm like,
and say namaste.
Then all of a sudden it's like you want to knock him out.
But mate, like honestly, amazing. Thank you so much for obviously coming on and stuff. And I hope like anyone listening's sort of gone, you know what? Hopefully
captured some of our waffle and made sense of it.
Put it together and gone, maybe I can do something pretty cool, and you can, and I think anyone can.
Even if you are in a kitchen.
Yeah, even if you're in a kitchen, I think even if you're a pot wash, you know,
everywhere, man. Like we can all do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if you're a pot wash, you can learn to cook an egg one day. Yeah, I keep referring to that. It's
that's the best. You just take some of that hot water, you put the egg in it, and you put it in the microwave, and it boils.
Yeah. Well,
or if you get it wrong, it's like a grenade and it explodes.
Right, but again, thank you so much for coming in, and again, thanks for everyone who's listening and stuff. But yeah, thanks for having us.
Namaste.
Namaste.